The subcommittee will come to order, and good morning to everyone. And I'd like to extend a special welcome to our witnesses and everyone joining us here today. And I do see many old and close friends in the room today, and I want to welcome you to this hearing. Our purpose today is to assess progress on the unfulfilled British commitment, a broken commitment unless the British government reverses its current course, in the Pat Finucane collusion case, and how this affects the peace process in Northern Ireland. In connection with the Good Friday Peace Agreement, the British government promised to conduct public inquiries into the Finucane and 3 other cases where government collusion in a paramilitary murder was suspected. Subsequently, the British government backtracked in regard to the Finucane case, the 1989 murder of human rights lawyer Patrick Finucane. The British backtracking came despite the recommendation to hold an inquiry, which again the British government agreed to abide by, of the internationally respected jurist and former Canadian Supreme Court Justice Peter Corey in 2004. At this point, I'd like to thank Judge Corey again, who testified about his recommendation at a congressional hearing that I chaired in May of 2004. That is now 9 years ago, and we are still trying to get the British government to live up to its commitment. The Finucane family has testified at many hearings. Geraldine, Patrick's widow, and his son John, Michael Finucane, who is testifying today, first testified before Congress on this in 1997 in a hearing before this subcommittee, so that is now 16 years ago. And of course, there have been many others, and all of these witnesses, advocates, and experts have advocated a full, independent, and public judicial inquiry into the police collusion with loyalist paramilitaries responsible for brutally murdering Patrick Finucane. Over these years, the dedicated human rights activists and experts have established much of what has happened, and after facts have been established, the British government has acknowledged many of them. In 2011, the British government admitted that it did collude in the Finucane murder and apologized for it. Much of the credit for this admission goes to the many of you who have done the work, the hard work, on all the reports that documented collusion until it was pointless for the British government to continue denying it. So that is progress, but the work is not done because the British government has reserved one final, yet massive injustice. It continues to protect those responsible for the murder of Patrick Finucane. Prime Minister Cameron told the Finucane family that the government would not conduct the promised public inquiry into the collusion. The deliberate decision not to proceed with the public inquiry is a glaring public breach of faith. It is a source of enormous frustration to Patrick Finucane's family and friends. It resonates throughout Northern Ireland, calling into question the British government's commitment to peace and reconciliation, and above all, justice. This is particularly sad because the British government has taken so many other positive, truly honorable steps. Many of them were painful for large sectors of the British public and public opinion, such as the Bloody Sunday inquiry released in 2010. To call all of that into questioning by reneging on the promised Finucane inquiry is a tragedy. It's a preventable tragedy, however. Most recently, in December of 2012, Sir Desmond de Silva released a new report on collusion in the Finucane murder, really a review of existing case files rather than the gathering of new evidence that the promised inquiry would produce. The de Silva report detailed what Prime Minister Cameron admitted were shocking levels of state collusion. Let me repeat that. The de Silva report detailed what Prime Minister Cameron admitted were shocking levels of state collusion in the murder, including that it was RUC officers who proposed the killing of Finucane, passed information to his killers, and obstructed the investigation, and that British domestic security had intelligence of the murder threats months before the actual crime, and yet took no steps to protect him. It is admirable that the Prime Minister has admitted collusion and apologized for it, but it is really too much to admit a government crime and then say it will not be investigated, particularly when the government has undertaken a commitment to do so. The question asks itself, after so many positive steps, is the British government really going to diminish the good it's done since 1998 in order to protect the identity of people who share responsibility for a brutal murder? At this moment, I'd like to say that I will be asking members of Congress to sign a letter to the Prime Minister urging him to conduct the promised inquiry. Many members of Congress have repeatedly called for this, including the passage of 2 of my congressional resolutions, H. Res. 740 in the 109th Congress and H. Con. Res. 20 in the 110th Congress. I now would like to yield to my friend, Mr. Weber, for any comments that he might have.